It began with a storm, not in the sky, but in the hearts of men. Israel was restless, wounded, fractured, raided from the outside, corrupted from within. The sons of Samuel, the last prophet of Israel, had taken bribes and twisted justice. The people had had enough. So the elders rose, cloaked in authority, and marched to Ramah. They stood before Samuel, gray-bearded and weary, and delivered their demand with trembling lips. "Give us a king like the other nations." The word struck Samuel like a dagger. He had judged them faithfully for decades, but now they wanted something more, something dangerous. He couldn't stand the crowd. He sunk into his chair, for his knees were weak and feeble. That night Samuel wept before the Lord, and the Lord answered,
"Samuel, they have not rejected you. They have rejected me, I, the Lord Most High, from being king over them."
But God would not stop them. He told Samuel, "Go and warn them, show them the cost." So Samuel gathered the people under the scourging sun and said to them, "For this day, in rejecting God as your king, you have shown your desire to choose a man as king over you, and so have you crowned your own downfall. For when you cried for a crown, you unknowingly sold your freedom for a golden chain. This king you ask for will take your sons, to drive his chariots, to die in his wars. He will take your daughters for his perfumes, for his pleasures. He will take your fields, your grain, your freedom, and when you cry out, the Lord will not answer." The people did not blink. Instead, they roar, "To hell with you. We still want a king," they said. "We want to be like the nations. We want someone to lead us into battle, not some old prophet." And for once the people doubt his calling, some threw rocks and firebombs. That night a riot broke out in Israel, for Samuel feared for himself and his sons, whom the people believed to be corrupt.
So, who is going to be king over Israel?
Israel had 12 tribes, one crown, but 100 hands reaching for it, each with its own vested interest.
And so the Lord gave them what they wanted.
A king like other nations.
He was tall, strong, handsome, a head above every man. But beneath the surface uncertainty stirred, for he was a man with a heart of his own. Saul, son of Kish, had not come searching for a crown. He was chasing lost donkeys in the hill country. Yet providence had its own plans. Samuel met him at the gate. He poured oil on Saul's head and whispered, "Has not the Lord anointed you to be prince over his inheritance?" Saul said nothing. He could barely breathe, only the pounding of his heart could be heard. For in search of his father's lost donkey, he found the crown of Israel. When the great day came to crown him publicly, the first king of Israel, a shift from theocracy where the people sees as a system where divine right trumps human right. The tribes were gathered and the lots cast. But behold, Saul, the chosen one, was missing. They found him hiding among the baggages. Even as he stepped forward, cloaked in strength and crowned by heaven, the shadow of fear never left him, for he felt inadequate for the daunting task ahead. That night in his tent, restless, Saul realizes that the crown was heavy. The true test of leadership lies not in the absence of rebellion, but in the presence of resolve amidst unrelenting opposition. Days went by, and his first test came swiftly. War drums sounded. Nahash the Ammonite surrounded Jabesh-Gilead, threatening to gouge out every citizen right eye in Israel. The Spirit of God rushed upon Saul. Fire replaced fear. He hacked an ox into 12 pieces and sent it throughout the land. Standing on the hill with his sword drawn, he proclaimed,
"Whoever does not follow Saul and Samuel into battle, this shall be done to his ox."
That night, Israel rose like a tide behind him, and into battle he went. He crushed the Ammonites, for victory was sweet. The people rejoiced. "Long live the king," they shouted, and screamed as they plundered their enemy cities. But Samuel still watched with heavy eyes, for he could see the future, and the dark clouds were only miles away. At Gilgal, Samuel gave his final speech as judge. He reminded them of Egypt, of Moses, of the Red Sea, and of God's faithfulness. He charged them, saying, "If you and your king obey the Lord, all will go well. But if you rebel, his hand will be against you." The elders cried, for an era had come to an end. But the youths, they rejoiced, thinking a golden era had began. But power, they say, turns saints into demons and reveal the dirt in their soul. Time went on, and the enemies of Israel sought to test the strength of Israel's new king. With their mighty war machines, they encroached into Israel territories. Words reached the king. While relaxing at his private chambers, meditating, Saul grew restless, for the Philistines pressed in at Michmash. His soldiers trembled. He was on the state of dilemma. If he should go after the Philistines or wait as usual for instructions from the prophet, as has been the tradition. In the wait, the people began to whisper, "Maybe their king isn't strong enough. He is still under the shadows of Samuel." And just like the people in the wilderness stirred the heart of Moses to strike the rock twice, Saul's heart was stirred. Samuel had promised to come in 7 days, but he was late. And so Saul, king, but not priest, stepped into the sacred space and offered the sacrifice himself. Just as the smoke rose, Samuel appeared. His voice was ice.
"What have you done?"
Saul blamed the people. He blamed the pressure. He excused himself, but Samuel saw through it. "You have done foolishly," he said. "Your kingdom will not endure. The Lord seeks a man after his own heart." But Saul did not fall immediately. Power never falls in one blow. It decays. After Saul becomes king, not all tribes are united. Ephraim, Samuel's tribe, resents that power now rests in Benjamin. Judah stays watchful, calculating. But Saul wasn't wise enough. He surrounded himself with praise singers and sycophants who fanned the flames of his ego. Years went by. Saul grew in his disobedience. He had no regard for the office of the priest. So there came a time that the Israelite was having a serious disagreement with the Amalekites. A word came from the priest that the Lord had spoken that they should strike the armies of Amalekites and leave no one alive. No spoil, no compromise. The city should be destroyed to its foundation. As the old prophet spoke, he listened, as he drinks from his golden vessel, unbothered by his words. So Saul rallied his troops throughout Israel, and they went into a fierce battle with the Amalekites. Samuel watched from the hills as the battle rages on, but Saul, like always, had his own motives. After the battle was won, he spared the Amalekite king and kept the best of the sheep and oxen. He turned to his soldiers and said, "Look, I have kept this for the Lord, for sacrifice. God definitely will be happy." But an old man who had lived through the years, gray in wisdom, noticed, when kings stop listening to prophets, the nation stops listening to God. Just then, he was confronted by the prophet Samuel. "To obey is better than sacrifice," Samuel thundered. "Because you have rejected the word of the Lord, he has rejected you as king." Saul dropped to his knees. He begged. He wept. He tore at Samuel's robe, and it ripped in his hands. Samuel looked down and whispered, "The Lord has torn the kingdom from you this day and given it to another." Samuel turned to leave. Saul begged again, "At least honor me before the elders of the people." But Samuel left his presence in fury, for the people had asked for a king, and now they would learn the weight of a crown made by human hands. Even in rejection, Saul clung to the image of power. Samuel never saw him again. But he mourned. Oh, how he mourned. The king Israel had asked for had failed. Knowing he was now an outcast from the Lord, Saul begins appointing his own court prophets, flatterers, not truth-tellers. This act raised dust among some tribal elders who started meeting secretly, whispering about Saul's failures in battle and his disdain for the prophets of God instructions. Some even screamed, "If this is kingship, give us back our God." And yet in the fields of Bethlehem, a boy sang to sheep. He held a harp, not a sword. He was forgotten by men, but seen by God. The Lord whispered to Samuel, "How long will you mourn for Saul? Fill your horn with oil." I have chosen a new king, a man after my own heart, and his name was David the shepherd boy. Years went by. David's fame grows. After the killing of Goliath, song spread. Saul has slain his thousands, David his tens of thousands. The crown tried to crush dissent, and the singing of such songs in public places. But as time went on, Saul's inner court splits. Some favored David's rise, others feared him. Slowly, the news of the rift between Saul and David spread to the neighboring countries. For when the walls tremble from the outside, the cracks inside become deadly. So the Philistines regroup. Ammonite raiders strike the borders. Saul is forced to choose between making a treaty and losing face or making peace with God and the prophet, but he sought an alternative. He ended up overextending his forces in multiple fronts, just because he had disobeyed the Lord Most High. Saul secretly sends envoys to Moab, offering marriage alliances. Saul considers sacrificing a city to the Philistines to buy time. Public anger grew. Slowly, Saul was becoming more paranoid and depressed by the day, so Saul's gradually descent into tyranny. A crown forged in fear soon turns to iron. Saul starts executing dissenters. He spies on his own family. The people begin to fear their king, as the evil spirit troubles him. Saul invites David to play music for him, which helps to calm him, but hurls a spear at him. David flees, but many in the army follow him. His madness led him to attack his perceived foes from all part of the country. Citizens whisper prayers at night not to God, but for Saul's madness to end. Saul begins to see visions, or so he claims. Are they divine warnings or madness? Saul's image is maintained by public victories and controlled narrative. Town criers praise Saul's victories, even in failure. All his plans to do away with the young shepherd boy had failed. Words got to him that his own son Jonathan had even become friends with David. Saul now was fighting treachery from all front, even from his own house. News got to the Philistine that Saul's kingdom was in disarray. It was time to strike, and so they did. As the Philistines closed in, Saul's desperation grew. His men fled in terror, and the king's eyes darted wildly about. He sought guidance from God, but none came, so he turned to sorcerers. Fear gripped his heart like a vice, but a king ought to show courage, for the tears of the king are not for the public eye, but for the silence of the night. So he charged into battle side by side with his son, against the Philistines, but it will be a battle of no return. He fought like a wounded lion, for he had lost the trust of God, so he needed the validation of his comrades. On Mount Gilboa, the battle raged. It wasn't the enemy's swords that stoked him. It was the groan of his son Jonathan struck by a savage soldier. The king's vision blurred as he watched his beloved child perish. The Philistines found Saul mortally wounded. In his final moments, he asked his armor-bearer to end his life. When the armor-bearer refused, Saul took his own sword and fell upon it. It was a day of joy for the Philistines, and an era of mourning for the Israelites. Thus came the end of Israel's first crown.